Hello, BookTube. This is Alan. Welcome to my channel. A lot of times when I do these videos, I have a thought in my mind of what I'm going to say and how it goes. And a lot of times so I don't write anything down unless it's notes that I've taken from my Goodreads page. Excuse me. That on my reviews on Goodreads or other sources that I looked at that sound interesting about the particular book. And so when I make the video, and after it's uploaded, I go, oh, I forgot to say this. And usually I just say, oh, well, I already uploaded the video, and it's too late now. I'll just go ahead and let it pass. But this time, I couldn't let it pass because last video I did the books I enjoyed reading in 2019. Left out one book, which is I really enjoyed. And it's this one, Berlin, Alexanderplatz, by Alfred Dublin. This is a translated work by Michael Hoffman. Michael Hoffman was born in Germany, educated in England, and I like the cover of this. It was this book was originally came out when it first came out. It was translated by a different translation, and I think it was like the brother or cousin or third cousin twice removed of James Joyce, and it didn't fare well because there's a lot of conscientious thought of different characters in this novel, and you have a lot of people coming together and a lot of traffic, a lot of areas where they speak a different a lingo, different different thought, way of speaking. Kind of like taking someone and put them in South Boston with speak Southie, or put them in New York and Brooklyn or any place in the world, and they would have a different type of speech, different lingo. And so this tells the story of this guy, the main character, Franz Biberkorf. And I'll read you the opening sentence. He stood outside the gates at Dingle Penitentiary, a free man. Only yesterday he had been on the allotments with the others, hoeing potatoes in his convict stripes, and now he's wearing his yellow summer duster. They were hoeing, and he was free. He leant against the red wall and allowed one tram after another to pass, and he didn't take any of them. The guard at the gate drove past him a few times, pointing to the tram. He didn't take it. The awful moment was at hand. Awful. Why so awful, Franz? His 4 years was up. The black iron gates had been ironed with increasing revulsion. Revulsion? Why revulsion? For the past year, swung shut behind him. He was being put out. The others were inside, carpentering, varnishing, sorting, gluing, with 2 years ahead of them, with 5 years. He was standing at the tram stop. His real punishment was just beginning. So it starts off with Franz Biberkorf, who is now a free man, a World War I veteran, and he heads to Berlin. And he is helped to get on his feet by just a couple of Jewish people. And then he wants to go on the straight and narrow. And it begins by hawking newspapers. The newspapers just happen to be the newspaper of the National Socialist Party, which is the Nazi Party. So he's wearing the red red sash across his chest of the Nazi Party. One of the characters commented and made a remark about that red sash. Said if I wore that thing, I would use it to hang myself. Alfred Dubin puts in advertisements, slogans, the weather, talks about the slaughterhouse, where the pigs are actually put one of those red sashes around their neck. and Berlin at the time, I looked down at the notes I took, that they were free will in Berlin, remained liberal, artistic, and as free as a decadent bird. Franz Biberkorf gets balls into scam. He falls down, gets back up. He has a confrontation in a bar with an anarchist. Excuse me. And Franz spits out, I shit on your strikes and your little people who are supposed to be organized. And then anarchist comes back with, you scum of capitalist swamp, get lost, uniting proletarians. The very word for you is parasites. And it goes back and forth with the National Socialist Party, and you can see the different confrontations going on in the book. Franz Biberkorf falls down again. He gets back up again. He loses his arm in a tram. Been pushed. And all the while, Alfred Dubin uses references to the creation, to Adam and Eve, to Solomon, to Job, and finally the book of Revelation in the book. The Wall Street Journal and the reference very first when they were going to do a book review about this book, they said it was a lowlife for the ages. And there's one quote that Alfred Dubin put in the book that I really liked, and I used it for my review on my Goodreads page about this book. There are two paths in this world, one visible and one invisible. So this is really enjoy this. Berlin, Alexanderplatz by Alfred Dubin, translated by Michael Hoffman, and this was published by New York Review of Books. Excuse me. The next Half Price Bookstore puts out a calendar each year, and when they do, they have coupons on the back, and they usually run like for 2 months you get 10% off, and it's not 10% off the entire purchase, but like buy one book you get 10% off that book, 2 books you got 10% off both books, so it works pretty well. But they come out with a calendar, and they have a different theme each year, and this the theme this year is decades. It starts off in the 1900s and goes all the way to 2010. And they always have different, right here on the different dates, they always have either poets, artists, authors, what their birthday is. Today is the 9th, so they have 1908, Simeon de Beauvoir. But I decided to read and, excuse me, backtrack here. They have books, music, and movies from the 1900s. And they list, let's see, they have list 8 books here. You have Heart of Darkness, Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington, Hound and the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Call of the Wild by Jack London, The Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois, The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, The House of Mirth by Edith Wharton, and The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. So, last year, I decided to read biographies and such. My biography page on my Goodreads page, I usually has by subjects, YA or thrillers or science fiction, things like that. And my biography list was low, so last year I decided to read more biographies, and I read 10 of them. And this year, I decided to go ahead and pick one of the books from each decade. So, I just told you the what's going on in 1900s. 1910s, they list Dubliners by James Joyce, The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka, My Antonia by Will Cather, Tarzan the Eighth by Edgar Rice Burroughs, Edith Fromm by Edith Wharton, Winesburg, Ohio by Sherman Anderson, and Sons and Lovers by D.H. Lawrence. And so it just goes on like that with all the way through the decades until the decade of 2010. So I'm going to go ahead and pick one book from each decade and read it. So there'll be 12 books. So each decade. Let's flip back here and see what else they have. 1960s. They list To Kill a Mockingbird, In Cold Blood, 100 Years of Solitude, Slaughterhouse-Five, the autobiography of Malcolm X, Catch-22, Silent Spring, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings. The last decades they list here is 2010, and they list Freedom by Jonathan Franzen, America by Yamada Ngozi Adichie. I'm sorry, I'm gonna mess that name up. They have A Visit from the Goon Squad by Jennifer Egan, The Flamethrowers by Rachel Kussner, The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, Salvage the Bones by Jasmine Ward, Between the World and Me by Tanisha Coates, The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead, and The 10th of December by George Saunders. So that's my plan for this year. Read a book from each decade. So that was Berlin Alexanderplatz by Alfred Dublin, which is translated by Michael Hoffman, and reading a book from each decade. I thank you for your comments. I thank you for your subscriptions. And take care. And